Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to learn about research methods in psychology. Research. It's a structure and methodological investigation conducted to expand our knowledge, uncover the insights, support evidence-based decision. It involves collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data to answer questions or test hypotheses. So, what is the purpose of research? Why is research done? Because it helps in understanding the phenomenon, it helps to solve the problem, develop new techniques or new technologies, helps in informing policy and practice across disciplines like science, medicine, education, business, and social sciences like psychology. So, today we are going to learn the methods of psychology. Let us know what are the methods of psychology that is usually used in psychological area. So, if we talk about the types of psychology, we get to learn about the pure research, applied research, qualitative research, and quantitative research. But here in methods of psychology, we are going to discuss research inside this particular topic. So, based on the syllabus, we are going to discuss about the major research in psychology. So if we talk about the major research methods in psychology, they are descriptive method, that is prediction or correlation, and experimental method. So under descriptive method, we study these three things, that is case study, survey, naturalistic observation. In prediction or correlation, we study about positive correlation, negative correlation, and zero correlation. If you go through the statistic part, there are so many types of correlation, but here in psychology, we try to understand correlation just in these three categories. Next is experimental method. Firstly, let us discuss about the descriptive method. This is the simplest methods used in psychology, which usually describe the organisms. So, what do we use to describe? We use checklist, cameras, questionnaires, tape recorders, etc. So, in descriptive method, I already told that we use case study, survey, and naturalistic observation, which is also known as the descriptive techniques. Let us know case study, survey, and naturalistic observation in detailed manner. So, case study, it is based on the idea that the more we know about the individuals, the better we will understand and help them. So, if we want to define case study, it is a detailed examination of a particular subject. It can be person also, it can be group also, event also, organization, or any kind of phenomenon over a period of time. So it's often used in academic, business, medical, and social research, like in psychological research, to explore complex issues in real world context. If we want to know the examples of case study, in a business case study, we can analyze that how Netflix disrupted the entertainment industry. We can also do the case study in medical area where we can document a rare disease and how it can be treated. And in social area, we can do the case study like the impact of remote learning on students during the pandemic. So, what is the advantage of doing case study? So, it is very beneficial to know about social behavior patterns of individual in depth. So, from case study, we can know the depth of any behavior patterns of individual. It also enables us, a researcher, to trace out the relationship between the individual inner self with social forces. Social forces here, it usually talks about the pressure, societal pressure, and it can be any kind of guidance which helps individual to behave accordingly. Now let's talk about the limitation of case study. Yeah, it consumes more time, effort, and money. The subjectivity of the researcher may hamper the report that is needed because in case study, what the researcher has to say, what is their expectation or what they want to interpret, that can may hamper the report which is in its originality manner. So, in case study, there is no set of rules during the collection of information. Next is survey. If we want to define survey, it's a method of collecting information from a group of people to understand their opinions, behaviors, experiences, or characteristics. It's commonly used in research, marketing, social sciences, and public policy. If we compare to the case study, in survey we have the larger sample where investigator or researcher with many printed questions asks people to report their behavior or opinions. We can also collect the data here through the mail, telephone, or directly interviewing the population. Now, it also facilitates to collect a large amount of data with little effort. We can also use the Google document forms. So, example of solving. If a company want to know about the customer satisfaction, a company might run a customer satisfaction survey to learn how people feel about their products and the services. So what are the advantages of survey? It saves money, times, and takes less effort. New issues can be updated easily. If we talk about the limitation, it doesn't provide direct observation of the individual. If we are collecting data through the Google form, we are not able to see or observe the person who is participating in that Google form questionnaire. And some folks, they might not complete the questionnaire if the questionnaire is very long. Next one is naturalistic observation. We can also say it objective observation or systematic observation. Now, while defining naturalistic observation, the collection of data by careful observation of the events in natural setting is called naturalistic observation. It can be done by participating in an event to which we call participatory, whereas if it's done in absence of the participant or in an event, then it is said as non-participatory. If the researcher is participating, it is participatory. If the researcher is absent, it's non-participatory observation. We also can call it a structural or observation if the process is standard, systematic, and the researcher reduces the observed information. Example, if a researcher wants to study public playground in the Kathmandu, he must go to that place and observe to understand the public playground in Kathmandu. The objectives can be different. It can be like how children behave in a playground, how adults use the public playground, and many more. So, how is this natural observation done? What are the steps? First, behavior is observed, then the observed behavior is noted, and then interpretation and analysis of behavior is carried out, and lastly, it is generalized. Generalized in a sense, it's a general concept. If something is true, that could be true in the similar cases. So, what are the advantages of naturalistic observation? It can have high ecological validity, meaning as the observation is done in natural setting, that means it might be applicable in daily life. It can be unbiased because natural behavior is seen. It's useful for generating hypotheses because it is enriched with qualitative research. It is cost effective and flexible. Talking about the limitation of naturalistic observation, there is no control over the variables because we are doing it in natural setting. There can be potential for observer bias because the observer or the researcher might work accordingly with your own expectation and interpretation. There can be ethical concern about the privacy because nobody likes to be watched, or the matter can be sensitive as well, and it is time consuming for the data collection. Correlation or prediction. So, correlation is the statistical measure which helps in prediction of behavior. For example, knowing how much aptitude test is scored correlate with the school grades tells us how well the score predicts grade in the final exam. Suppose if a student has brought 75% in first exam, we can predict that maybe he or she will score more than that in second term exam. So prediction helps us in predicting the behavior of an individual based on direction of relationship. Correlation is divided into positive, negative, and zero correlation. So if you go through the statistics and try to learn in depth about the correlation, you will find various types, but we are just understanding correlation in terms of direction of relationship. So positive correlation, it's a measure between 0 and 1 that indicates the direct relationship between two things together. Like if one increases, other increases. If one decreases, other decreases. For example, the amount of violence viewed on TV correlates about zero point 0.3 with aggressive social behavior. That means if somebody sees violence in the TV, there can be the perception of aggression in that individual as well. Now, talking about negative correlation, it indicates or inverse relationship that if one increases, the other decreases. For example, if the person has low on self-esteem, they tend to score high on depression. So, this example relates to the big five traits. Next one is zero correlation. That means no discernible relationship between the variables. So, for example, suicide and intelligence. The third method of research in psychology is research methods in psychology is experimental method. In psychology, the experimental method involves a structured process to test hypotheses about behavior and mental process through controlled experimentation. Some of the steps has been given because the major thing about experimental method is to uncover the cause and effect relationship. So, step number one is identify the research problem. First of all, psychologists begin by defining a specific question about the behavior and mental process. Let us start with this example. So, does sleep deprivation affect memory recall? So, if you have less sleep hours, does it affect memory problems or memory recall? So, in general, we can say that yes, it might affect, but research wants proof. That means experimental method in psychological research. This research may help us to understand whether or not the sleep deprivation affect our memory recall. So then we formulate a hypothesis after identifying the research problem. A testable prediction is made based on the theory or prior research. Example, the hypothesis can be participants who sleep less than 4 hours will perform worse on memory test. Third step is to design the experiment. So variables are defined. Independent variable is defined, dependent and control variables. So your independent variable is the hours of sleep because we can manipulate this factor. Whatever we want to measure, that is dependent variable, and independent variable is the effect. So if a person sleeps for 4 hours, will it affect the memory test or not? So control variable is kept constant to avoid confounding effects. Groups are assigned in a sense that experimental group receives the independent variable. That means those people who are in this group are supposed to sleep only 4 hours a day, a night, and control group they does not receive independent variable. That means they sleep normal hours, which is 8 hours. So random assignment is done to ensure unbiased group distribution. Step number four, conduct the experiment and collect data. Participants undergo experimental procedure. Observation and measurements are recorded systematically. After that, analysis of data is done through the statistical methods that can be t-test, ANOVA test, which are used to determine if there is differences between the groups. So lastly, conclusion is drawn. Researchers interpret results to confirm or refuse the hypothesis. For example, if they score low in memory test, researchers confirm their hypothesis that yes, people with low sleep hours or sleep deprivation has problem in memory recall. But if they score higher in the memory test, it refuses the hypothesis. So they can consider the implication, limitation, and suggest future research. So, what are the advantages of experimental method? We can test the cause and effect relationship, we can replicate the research, and we can control the environment. What are the limitations? The artificial situation of lab, difficult in attaining cooperation and attitude of the subject, which we might not be sure that whether the client or the participant has slept only 4 hours or maybe more than 8 hours. So field can be limited. The problem of representative population can be also limited. So, if you want to know more about research in psychological methods, as I have just went through the syllabus and made this video, but there are so many types of psychological research which you can understand and you can go through the references. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe the channel.